Now to the business of the day. Would our chair of the day, past President Peter Dakin, please come up to the podium?
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speakers and footy panellists, Stephen McBurney and Adrian Anderson. Stephen has got a long CV, but it'll be a very short précis of it. Stephen's head of AFL umpiring and formerly was commissioner of the very politically and controversial Australian Building and Construction Commission. You would have seen him in the headlines a few months ago in that regard. He umpired over 400 games, 4 AFL Grand Finals, and is currently responsible for a large team of over 400 umpires and staff across Australia. It's a big role. Adrian is a Vice President of the Melbourne Cricket Club, former General Manager of Football Operations at the AFL, a leading barrister who specialises in sports law and disciplinary tribunals. Stephen and Adrian are in fact friends, and it's interesting that Stephen has a track record of reporting and rubbing out players, and Adrian has successfully defended many of these players on appeal. From my viewpoint, having been involved as a 57-year member of the Melbourne Cricket Club, how many other 50-year members of the Melbourne Cricket Club are here today? A few of them did have a word in my ear last week to say how disappointed they were that instead of paying $15 for our subs, we now have to pay, under Adrian's leadership, $175 for membership. Our moderator for the Q&A is Adrian Nelson, past president. Would you please make him very welcome, together with Stephen and Adrian.
Well, thank you very much, Peter, and welcome everyone. It's great to see all the colours in force today, except for this table here. Sorry, Bernie, you look all right there. Good. We're doing all right. It was interesting to hear Barbara give the reflection on Grace, and I think that's the first time I've heard a Collingwood supporter talk about Grace before. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Barbara. It's great today to have such a wonderful panel here today to I guess, inform us and educate us and hopefully entertain us as well about what they get up to and what they do. And of course, this is Grand Final week, the week that Melbourne comes alive. The weather for Friday and Saturday is going to be a lot better than this. I think we've got 23 and sun forecast, which is going to be a lot better for us. But here are two gentlemen who've been, I guess, intimately involved with Grand Finals and Grand Final week before. I guess, Adrian, perhaps first for you, you're the Vice President of the MCC. Now, is the MCG ready for this week's Grand Final?
Absolutely. It's looking a treat. And it's funny that I think, in the past, people would say having two teams, non-Melburnian teams, might be a bit of a downer. But I think it's a great thing for the game that we've got, Sydney, Brisbane. It'll probably be one of the highest watched Grand Finals ever, because the viewership that brings in from New South Wales and Queensland is well above what it otherwise would be, and us Melburnians will watch regardless. So I know the MCG is ready and roaring to go, no question.
So now I came down Brunton Avenue on the way to the meeting today, and half of Brunton Avenue is basically blocked off with what I'm guessing is something to do with Katy Perry and all the stands required for Katy Perry. What sort of logistics does that add to the day?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, we had the concert this year. We're now that goes to show my following of pop culture of Taylor Swift, which was just incredible. Like that would be the biggest show the MCG's probably ever put on. And she had this amazing stage where you had to get underneath the car park and pop up in the middle of the ground and what have you. So everything that was in place for Taylor Swift will no doubt stand us in good stead for Katy Perry.
And on top of all the normal things that are required for a grand final.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wow. That's right. And I guess this year, so this is the culmination of the footy season, the final season. So this year we've just had 3 finals at the MCG. Last year we had 6. What impact does that have on the MCC?
It's interesting. Like most people think that the finances of the club would suffer because of having only 3 finals, but the way the system actually works, and it's a beauty in a way of a membership model, is that we actually pay for the number of people who come along to the AFL, for people who come to finals. So it's a net positive financial result, but, you know, at the end of the day, you don't really, the main thing is about, you know, having finals for people to come along to. So, you know, 3 is less than, you know, you'd ordinarily like, but that's going to happen some years, and that's part of a national competition. And I couldn't believe at Hawthorn Bulldogs, I think it was 96,000. I'm sorry to bring it up again, Adrian. I know it's still a bit of a sore point, but us Hawks had a great night.
That's right. We've got Stephen here today, so I've got a few questions there that I can ask of his team.
But I think
about that night.
What that shows is, you know, the appetite, you know, for the neutrals that were there as well. And then the preliminary final, Geelong, you know, on the weekend, Geelong Brisbane was just an incredible game, incredible atmosphere. Just everyone who's there or watching just loved it, and was sensational. So even though we haven't had as much quantity, we've had amazing quality, and let's hope that that continues on the weekend. I'm a bit worried the Swans have been the pretty much the dominant team this year, I think, and I'm hoping Lions can take it right up to them on the weekend.
That's good. And I guess, thanks, Adrian. But Stephen, you're no stranger to grand final week as well. And I guess this morning, Peter alluded to, you made a sort of announcement this morning of the grand final umpires. So I guess we're the second audience that may have heard that. So can you tell us who's umpiring on Saturday?
Yeah, I can. Nick Foote from Tasmania will be the second Tasmanian to umpire a grand final. He'll be doing his first grand final. And Craig Fleur from South Australia will be doing his second grand final. Simon Meredith will be umpiring his 9th grand final this Saturday, and Matt Stevic is umpiring his 12th. And in an interesting coincidence, both Matt Stevic and Simon, who are two of our most experienced umpires, it'll be game 499 for each of them this Saturday. Wow. And they will, all things being equal, they will both do their 500th game in round 1, or I think they call it round 0 now, round 0 next year.
So how do you choose the umpires who are going to umpire the grand final? I know there are members here, and I don't want to allude to this table, but certainly this table would give strong feedback to the umpires during a season. And
I think they were happy last year with umpires.
They would have been. Yeah. But how do you choose which umpires umpire, so including the goal umpires and the boundary umpires?
Yeah, so it really is, it's a bit like that TV reality series Survivor. It's just surviving the year. We picked the 16 best umpires for the finals. That's whittled down to 10 after week 1, down to 8 after week 2. The best 8 go into the preliminary finals. And from the preliminary finals, we picked the 4 best field umpires, the 4 best boundary umpires, and the 2 best goal umpires to umpire the grand final.
So can I just say, Steve's being a little bit modest there, because there's every umpire, every game has every decision, non-decision assessed, and you get a series of points. And it's a very scientific system where you get ranked like 1 to, what was 32. I think there's probably more, 43. And so it's really cutthroat. And the way these guys prepare and perform, they have their special dinner that was always a special occasion for the grand final umpires. Is that tonight or tomorrow night? And the effort that goes in, and the quality of those guys who get through, and the number of times, including Steve on 4 occasions, when you're the general manager, you know, of football operations, and the biggest thing that can go wrong is just, you know, errors that change the result of a game. And the number of times these guys at the top just go out there and nail it, like you did on 4 occasions, is incredible. So it's actually a very sophisticated, not many people understand, selection system, and it's really well done.
So I guess, Stephen, we hear a lot about the players for grand final week, and they finished the prelim final last weekend. They might go to Brownlow on Monday. They've got their training during the week. You've umpired 4 grand finals. What's a grand final week like for an umpire?
Well, a grand final week, we try and keep it as normal as possible, but grand final week's just not normal. It's quite different. We're grateful to Adrian because the MCG hosts the umpires for training every Thursday before the grand final. That'll happen again this year. And then we're having our special dinner for the officials and umpires doing the grand final in the MCC committee room on Thursday night. I've got to say it was a bit different for me. My first grand final, I spent the Tuesday night in the tribunal arguing about whether Jason Clerk should be suspended. And then he was, and he'll be appealed. So I spent Thursday night in the tribunal again, giving evidence on the appeal. So mine was a bit disrupted, but they do that. And then what's a great thing for umpiring and a great thing for the umpires is they get to go in the parade, the grand final parade on Friday, and they get to take their children. Those who have children get to take their children in the parade. And then by Saturday, it's gearing up for the match and getting ready and getting in the right mindset to officiate the most important game of the year.
Well, so now your role's head of AFL umpiring or head of AFL officiating, is it?
Yes.
So, right. So can you maybe explain to us today, like, what are you responsible for? What does that include and who reports through to you?
Yeah, sure. So I took the job, started it on the 26th of April, and it said to me it was head of officiating. And I thought, okay, that's just umpiring. And I got in there and they sat me down and told me that I'm responsible for the umpires, field boundary goal. I've got to do timekeepers, interchange stewards. We have ball stewards now. You know, the kids who sit behind the goal and throw the ball back. I'm in charge of them. The thing that worried me the most is there's this thing called the ARC, and the ARC is the AFL Review Centre, and that's where they do all their score reviews, and I'm responsible for the ARC as well. I didn't know how to spell ARC before starting the job, and I'm not great with IT, and the ARC looks like a spaceship. It's all about IT. It's got 44 TV screens and remote controls, and it has 13 people in there officiating for every match. 13 people, they've got 3 doing umpire review, 3 doing score review, 3 doing MRO, looking for reportable incidents. They have a doctor, they must have a doctor attend the ARC for every game, and the doctor sits in the ARC watching the screens, looking for concussions and serious injuries. And they have 3 techs, and I'm just the 13th who's there to make sure it runs smoothly. So that's part of the job. I'm really enjoying being back at the AFL, and my wife said it'll be good, we can go away in October. And then they told me I'm responsible for AFLW, and that goes till December. So those plans are off.
Yeah, so with the total number of umpires across different leagues, so how many umpires, how many leagues?
And so the AFL's 43 field umpires, 44 boundary, and 27 goal umpires. Then we've got the VFL competition that sits underneath, but there's very good people running that. Nationally, we're up to 20,000 umpires doing community football, suburban football, country football, and AFL football, and that's a new record. And pleasingly, we're now up to 13% of those umpires are female. We've had a big push on to give more opportunities to women and girls to take up umpiring. But 20,000 is still less than 1 per game of football played each weekend. So we need more, and we'll continue to push to recruit more young umpires or old umpires into what is a great profession. And the more we get, the better we get at it.
So how did you start becoming an umpire? How did that all come about?
Well, I was looking for pocket money when I was at school, and as a 15-year-old, I went down with some mates and we started umpiring at the Bentley McKinnon Youth Centre, and just gradually working our way up from local football to what was then VFA football, then VFL football, then finally AFL football.
Well, yeah, so it's quite a journey, and so I guess along the way, you do come across incidents on the field and reporting players as part of that. Some of it happens now through video review as well. So can you tell us a bit about, I guess, what it's like reporting a player, and maybe a story, if you've got an example of someone you may have reported?
Yeah, so
field.
Reporting is an important part of controlling a game, and the rules are clear as to when a reportable incident occurs, and it's the umpire's responsibility to lay a report, let the player know, and then lodge it with the league and have the tribunal follow through on its process. One of the first games I did, I had Martin Pike of Brisbane, who was a lovely guy off the field and absolutely crazy on the field, and I was a young umpire. a free kick against him and he swore at me. So I paid a 50-metre penalty, which took him to the line. He said, well, you can't pay another 50, can you? And I said, no. And so he proceeded to swear at me for the next 60 seconds. And I had, back then we had a notebook and a pencil, so I was writing down what he said word for word. And we got to the tribunal and his advocate was Ian Fingers Finlay. And he said, Martin's going to apologise. We just want to say he swore at you once and we'll be done, we'll be out of here. And I said, I've written it down, here's a copy. I'll be reading this out to the tribunal. And I read out to the tribunal and the Herald Sun printed it word for word. I can't repeat it here. He got a record at the time of $2,500. And it's just unfortunately part of our responsibility. And when Adrian was head of football, we had a zero tolerance policy, and it was really not so much to protect AFL umpires, but to protect the umpires who were junior umpiring in the parks on the weekend and making sure they feel supported and protected and that there's a line that players shouldn't cross. And they can always ask us what the decision was for, but there's zero tolerance to abuse to any of our umpires.
So Ian Fingers,
Yes.
Finlay. Do the umpires have a nickname for Adrian when he's defending a?
No, it was always quite an affectionate Ando because he was one of our supporters, and umpiring is a really tough occupation for them. They needed a lot of resilience and they need support, and Adrian always was uncompromising and unconditional in his support of the umpires, and that was really important. And I think we saw over time umpiring developed to the professionalism it is now. And I think it's fair to say when we started, Adrian, it was sort of semi-professional, and just the level of scrutiny now on umpires has led us to put in a lot more resources to support umpiring, a lot more coaching and even mental health support. We have 2 sports psychologists on staff. We have a doctor, we have 2 physios. We need to look after their mental health as well as their physical well-being, and that's become more important in this day and age.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So I guess it's a bit of a supply chain from you through to Adrian at the tribunal. So Adrian, you're on the other side now.
Just going to comment on that, a lot of them are incredible athletes too, like Steve. I mean, so with how far are they covering a game at the moment at top speed, trying to make those decisions on the run?
Yeah, we GPS our umpires. They carry a GPS for training and games. Our field umpires were doing 15 kilometres a match under 3 umpires. It's back to 12 kilometres a match under 4 umpires. But our boundary umpires have increased to 18 kilometres a match. Adrian's absolutely right. They're unbelievable athletes. A lot of them run at school. One of our grand final umpires entered the Melbourne Marathon for the first time 2 years ago and came 7th. So they do a fantastic job, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah, so I guess just to follow up on that, umpires aren't full-time at the moment. So with that, can you see umpires umpiring multiple games per weekend if they're running less with the 4-umpire system?
We've trialled them doing double headers, running twice a weekend, and we think they need a 3-day break between games. We've now contracted all umpires to 25 hours a week, and we think 25 hours a week is sufficient to get the coaching and training into them that we need. But we also think it's good that the umpires have a second occupation. We have school teachers, we have lawyers, we have accountants, we have, I don't know what this occupation is. Does anyone know what a podcaster is? We've got podcasters. We've got Lee Fisher, a former player who's a cafe owner. And last year's All-Australian umpire, Robert Finlay, he works for BAE Systems, who you believe is a rocket scientist. We have one rocket scientist amongst the umpires.
Oh, very good. I'll move on because I know we're going to have questions from the floor, and I'm keen to do that. We might skip over the tribunal for a bit, but I was going to check up because I know, Adrian, you've defended Toby Green a number of times. I want to check if it was true that by defending Toby Green, that's actually helped pay the school fees for your 3 sons.
He's certainly been a good client, Toby, but also a lovely fellow. And it's amazing how, I get paid for what I do, but guys like Toby, you put in a big effort over about 48 hours to try and defend these guys, and just send a lovely text message afterwards saying, you know, even when he'd lost and missed out on playing in a game that he dreamed of playing forever, to send a lovely message saying, thank you. I thought you did a great job representing me tonight. I was really impressed with Toby as a guy. Yeah.
That's good. And this week, of course, has been Brownlow Medal week. Andrew Dillon's wife got into the news a little bit because she was interviewed on the red carpet, which was asked who she thought might win, and she goes, oh, I'd like to see Marcus Bontempelli win, but I've been told he's not in the mix. Which I did pay attention to that. You're a general manager of football operations. Did you know the result before the?
Yes, you do, but only because you open the envelopes while you're on the stage to sort them out and try and make it a good, exciting reading order, and you're adding it up. So you probably know by about round 13, 14.
So no one
has had any idea by then. The votes all come in locked, but you get there early. You count the first 12 rounds, so that gives you a fair idea sometimes. But I think Cripps, well, he wasn't after 6 rounds. I don't think he was on that top leaderboard. He just incredible, like one of the most amazing Brownlows. I've never seen anything like it. To think that Tacos could get 35 or 36 votes and come second, it's got to be the stiffest Brownlow result in history. But you only find out and you have to hand your phones in. There's a massive amount of betting on the Brownlow now. It's incredible. You would not believe the volume of betting these days. So there's a lot of integrity controls about you putting your phones away and all that sort of stuff. So poor Amanda's probably copped it unnecessarily there, I think.
No, that's good. We'll go to questions from the floor now. We don't have a second microphone, so if you do have a question, put your hand up, speak loudly, and then I'll repeat the question for our viewers at home as well. But Peter's informed me keep it short. So, Bill, yes.
I'm one of the lucky people that my wife enjoys AFL, and we watch it regularly, really enjoy it. One of the things that we struggle with is the rewarding of free kicks with no explanation. And we often say, you know, what was that for? We would enjoy it a lot more if we were told what free kicks we awarded for. Is that possible in today's game?
So one of the officials I look after is the shot clock operator. And at the MCG, they also have the ability to put an explanation of the free kick on the scoreboard. So if you're at the game, you get to see that. We haven't been able to do it for the viewers at home. We think that might change next year because Fox Footy is putting their own commentary teams in for all games. And years ago, John Russo was an expert comments on umpiring in the Channel 7 commentary team. And I think you'll see at least one retired umpire become a commentator next year and be able to tell the viewers at home exactly what you just said, which is what was the free kick paid for and whether it was right or wrong.
About the umpire microphones, do they not use that to explain their?
The umpire microphones can, but it depends on the volume mix by the broadcasters. So Triple M like to turn it up really high so you hear everything the umpires say. Channel 7 drop it in and out of the coverage depending upon when their commentators are talking. And sometimes they prefer not to hear the umpire's explanation because they want to say the umpire was wrong and they'll give their own explanation. But it is available there, and the umpires do take that 3 to 5 seconds after they blow the whistle to give a succinct explanation of the free kick before the game moves on very quickly.
Used to be able to buy sports ears, which you tune into the umpires. You can hear their voice. So you go along and watch a game, and you can hear them, and they explain it's fantastic. It just brings a new level of insight into. So, yeah, if that's the best way. If you can tune into what the umpires are saying, for sure.
Great. We've just got 2 last questions, Phil.
Final. Players who may be playing their last match for AFL commit a misdemeanor. It's no use suspending them for the following year. Why don't we have the sin bin for those players?
Okay, so if I just repeat the question, Phil's asked, why don't we have the sin bin for players, particularly playing their last game in a grand final?
I think the answer is history and tradition, but I think we probably should, to be honest. But what I'm amazed by is you'd almost never, in all my time, including since I've left the AFL, I only think of one time the players tried to abuse that, and that was Alistair Lynch. Yeah. And other than that, like the discipline of these guys, I mean, you'd think that going out knowing it's your last game, you can affect the result by taking out the opposition's best player, and they're playing for the, the greatest prize, but it just doesn't happen. So I'd have to say, even though it makes sense, it's not something that we sort of see a crying need for at the moment. But that could all change very quickly.
Very good. And one last question, Branko, from the.
What was the reaction of the umpires when it was announced that their sponsor would be OPSM?
Yeah, so just to repeat the question, what was the reaction to umpires when their sponsor became OPSM?
Initially not great, but within 24 hours, when we found out we were getting free designer sunglasses, we were very happy.
Very good. That's right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, could you please thank our panellists, Stephen and Adrian, and I'll hand back to Peter.
So just before you do, Peter, I just want to say thank you very much for having us both along today. Rotary, amazing organisation. When I was at school, I actually got sponsored by Rotary to go to, it was called the National Science Summer School, which was an amazing thing for me. I didn't end up becoming a scientist, unfortunately, but it was, I got to learn a little bit about the organisation, what you all do. It's fantastic, and very honoured to be here today. And congratulations on all your great work.
Thank you again to Adrian and Steve. Thanks, guys. They are our Rotary socks, specially made by our past president, Phil Anderson. Unfortunately, he's a Crow supporter, but anyhow,